Welcome to Digital Billy. Here we are looking at Photoshop Elements, and how it differs from the full Photoshop version. I'll be explaining features in expert mode in Photoshop Elements, since I am assuming that you already have a working knowledge of the Photoshop environment. If you'd like more basic tutorials of Photoshop Elements, let me know in the comments. In my following examples, I only have Photoshop Elements active, and I no longer have the full Photoshop application license. I have used Photoshop for a very long time. But the monthly subscription can add up. With Photoshop Elements, you can't beat the low one-time full purchase price of only $99.99. You can view the differences between Photoshop Elements and Photoshop by simply going to helpx.adobe.com/photoshop-elements/user-guide.html and open a second browser window. Then go to helpx.adobe.com/photoshop/user-guide.html. The Photoshop list of features, as you'd expect, is longer than the Photoshop Elements list. And per the Adobe website, the purpose of Photoshop Elements is designed for consumers who are just getting started with photo editing and want an easy way to organize, edit, create, and share their photos. Automated options deliver great results to enjoy as is, or use the application as a starting point for creative exploration. Here we look at a list of key differences between Photoshop Elements and regular Photoshop. First, we look at the Custom Shapes tool, then the Layer Styles, then the Type tool, then we look at Smart Objects, Cloud Storage and Cloud Document, and the various account plans. We also look at the image modes differences, as well as the bits per channels offerings. To jump directly to a topic, go to the timestamps in the description below. First, the Shapes tool. It does have non-pixelated vector shapes, but you cannot add or edit the anchor points, nor the curves. It does come with a library of vector shapes, which is quite basic, and you can import more. This is the Shapes tool, for vector, non-pixelated, and scalable shapes. And for this example, I'll select this check mark from the default shapes library. This is an example of a vector shape. It's defined by its anchor points and curves. In the full version of Photoshop, you would be able to select this pen tool, and be able to modify this shape. Or you'd be able to select this tool, the Direct Selection tool, to be able to move the anchor points around, or pull out the Bezier handles to edit the curves. So we have this checkmark shape that we can only resize and change the color to, and apply styles to, but we cannot change the shape itself. And here, I'm adding another similar shape on top of this checkmark, and you can see the discrete outlines of each shape. Yet once I place the second shape, the two shapes are forever locked together and on the same layer. You can identify the layer as a vector shape, because of this icon here. I can still go into this layer and subtract a similar shape, and again, the three shapes are still locked together and on the same layer. And with the full version of Photoshop, you would be able to fully edit and separate these shapes. Next, the Layer Styles. One key difference of Photoshop Elements versus Photoshop, is that the layer styles are in a different location. In Photoshop, you can simply double-click on Layer, and the Layer Styles window pops up. And then when you activate any style, it appears below the layer, in a vertical column, and this makes it super easy to use and therefore you can easily understand what styles you have active. In Photoshop Elements, you do not double-click on a layer. You go to Menu, Layer Style, Style Settings, and also, there are less options available in Photoshop Elements. Here are the layer styles of the full Photoshop. And Photoshop has more features with the layer styles as shown here. And here are the layer style settings for Photoshop Elements, there are less options. Next is the Type tool. One significant difference of Photoshop Elements versus Photoshop is the Type tool. With Photoshop Elements, there is no paragraph feature, so you are limited to manipulating only single lines of text at a time. Also, the type adjustment options are limited as well. Next is Smart Objects. Photoshop Elements does not offer smart objects. From the Adobe website, Understanding Smart Objects. Smart objects are layers that contain image data from raster or vector images, such as photo or Illustrator files. Smart objects preserve an image's source content with all of its original characteristics, enabling you to perform non-destructive editing to the layer. In regular Photoshop, when a smart object layer is created, it indicates it in the layer title, as well as with this icon here. Next is Cloud Storage. With my Photoshop Elements purchase, I get a Creative Cloud free membership, but the storage is limited to only 2 GB. And I do not see anywhere where I can add more space. You access Creative Cloud by going to the website creativecloud.adobe.com, and logging into your Adobe account. Or when Photoshop Elements application was installed on my iMac, it also installed the Creative Cloud application on the hard drive. The Creative Cloud is simply file storage. You have the Files section, where you have a section for your files, your libraries, where there can be personal and shared, as well as public libraries that you create. Then there is a section for files that are shared with you. So you use this cloud space to upload to and download from your files. Also note that the Creative Cloud includes an Apps section, where you can purchase any or all of the many Adobe apps and plans, a Learn section, with tons of learning materials, a Discover section, with tons of things to discover, and an enormous stock asset repository. So there is quite a lot going on within what is referred to as the Creative Cloud. But then it helps to understand that there is also what's called Cloud Documents. So what is the difference between Cloud Documents and Adobe Creative Cloud files? Adobe's Help website is loaded with answers. According to helpx.adobe.com, here is the difference between Cloud Documents and Adobe Creative Cloud files. Cloud Document is the next generation of document files that are optimized for working on the go. You can easily work seamlessly between applications. Your files allow you to save, store and sync any file type in your Creative Cloud. While working with Photoshop on the iPad, you can save your work as a cloud document but not as a Creative Cloud file directly from within the app. Cloud documents and Creative Cloud files are stored in different locations within your Creative Cloud account. Unlike Cloud Documents, PSD files saved as Creative Cloud files are not native to the cloud, and therefore do not have the same capabilities as Cloud Documents. Also, according to helpx.adobe.com, how do you make PSD files accessible across all of your devices? To make your PSD accessible across your devices, you can convert your PSD to a cloud document and save it to the cloud. To do so, open Photoshop on the desktop and select File, Save As, Save Adobe Cloud Document. Documents created with Photoshop on your iPad are automatically saved to the cloud by default and are accessible on Photoshop across your devices. But, this is not possible with Photoshop Elements. I hope that the previous information helps you understand what cloud documents are, and how they differ from the Adobe Creative Cloud files. Next is Account Plans. When you look at my Adobe account, Plans section, you see here that I have no paid plans. This is because I purchased Adobe Photoshop Elements 2022, so it was a one-time purchase, and not a subscription, and therefore, it does not involve a monthly payment plan. When you click on View Creative Cloud Plans and Pricing, you are then taken to this detailed page, where you can find every Adobe product. Here is just the Photo section. Some things to take notice of. There is a photography plan with a 20 GB limit, for only $9.99 a month, which includes Lightroom and Photoshop. You can go all in at $54.99 a month, and get 20 plus Creative Cloud apps, including Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and Acrobat Pro. Or you can get just Photoshop for $20.99 a month, which also comes with Adobe Fresco for drawing and painting. Or you can get Lightroom and Photoshop for $19.99 a month, which includes 1 terabyte of storage. There are also plans for business, students and teachers, and schools and universities. Next are image modes. With Photoshop Elements, you get these image modes: bitmap, grayscale, indexed color, and RGB color. With regular Photoshop, you get these image modes: bitmap, grayscale, duotone, indexed color, RGB color, CMYK color, lab color, and multi-channel. Next is bits per channel. With regards to bits per channel, Photoshop Elements only shows 8 bits per channel in the mode. And it's noteworthy that Photoshop Elements also does not have access to its channels. There just is not a channels window, so you can't look at the separate image channels, nor can you have extra alpha channels. Whereas with Photoshop, it has 8 bits per channel, 16 bits per channel, and 32 bits per channel capabilities. Of course, more bits per channel creates a more complex and larger image. And Photoshop Elements is meant to be simple. And Photoshop does indeed have channels, one for each color of its file mode, as well as alpha channels. And this concludes looking at this list of key differences between Photoshop Elements 2022 and regular Photoshop. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this information helpful. Please hit like and subscribe, that helps a lot.